One second, feminism is demonizing men for objectifying women, and in the next, it's encouraging girls to sell their body on OnlyFans so that men can objectify them. I mean, which is it? Are you sexually empowered, or are you a victim of oppression? I used to consider myself a feminist until I realized that women were using it as a means to justify going out like this and then complaining about being called hot. Shorty, have you seen your own ass? I swear to God, women are the only ones that can spend 2 hours doing their makeup and picking out an outfit and then still say they don't want to be judged on their appearance. Girl, you...
Oh, gentlemen, you're going to enjoy this one. This is a young lady who's really breaking down the fallacies, the falsehood, the old okie doke, the BS that feminism has pushed. Listen, I have to tell you guys, I was a pro-feminist when feminism was all about, hey, give us the opportunity to get good jobs. All right, the same jobs men can do. If we can do it, give us the opportunity to do it. But there's one thing that I've discovered very quickly. You cannot satisfy a female. And here's what I mean by this. If she met you and you had $100,000, right? That is not enough for her. In her brain, she sees potential. She don't see the end results there. She sees in her eyes, if today she's satisfied with 100,000, eventually she will want more. And it's based on a number of factors, not just greed, but women have an innate way of looking at life to think that if something is scarce in her life, she needs to secure more so that she will never feel that she has a need. And some of you might call it greed, and some of you might call it survival. And I think usually the difference in those two trains of thought is how much more the woman wants beyond what is required to keep her alive. Some women want to make $1 million more, and some women are very satisfied with making an extra 200,000. That's a significant difference. But I can tell you, the majority of women will never be satisfied with that 100,000 that she came into the relationship with. They will always be looking for more. And a lot of times, this can also be based on her outside influencers, because there will be those group of women who are saying, oh my God, girl, that's all he's earning? That's all you're getting from him? Why isn't he working harder? He should be working harder. You guys, look at what Shirley has. Look at what Nancy has. Look at all of the things that they got. They're going on trips. They're going on this. And then she looks at social media and she sees all of this amazing life. You guys know the story. All I'm saying is that this insatiable appetite for more is what keeps women in a constant state of frustration. But I digress. Let me introduce you to this lovely young lady. I don't know her name. I couldn't find her name. She didn't mention her name in the video. But her channel is called Finding Sky. And this video is how modern feminism scammed a generation of women. Has 289,000 views. I've seen some other creators break it down as well. And guys, listen, I want to see more young women who are waking up and creating content like this. Because we know women follow women, right? It doesn't matter how much we men say it and how much we become aware of the problems of feminism and where we are in the dating market, where families are not coming together and more divorces are being created. The more women we can highlight who are sounding the alarm, who see and admitting that there is something wrong with this whole idea called feminism, I'm going to highlight the hell out of these women. So I'm going to shut up now and start playing some of her videos. I'll stop it periodically because, hey, I got to put in my 2 cents, right? So let's get into it.
I used to consider myself a feminist until I realized that women were using it as a means to justify going out like this and then complaining about being called hot. Shorty, have you seen your own ass? I swear to God, women are the only ones that can spend 2 hours doing their makeup and picking out an outfit and then still say they don't want to be judged on their appearance. Girl, you literally pulled up your leggings to your 3rd rib and gave yourself the ultimate wedgie. We know you didn't dress like this for you. When you look at the actual definition of feminism, all it is supporting women having access to equal rights. I'm not going to sit here and call myself an anti-feminist as someone who agrees with the core definition of feminism. But the problem is that the word has evolved to mean something very different. It's not just about women's rights anymore. There are other ideological strings attached. A major concept of modern feminism has been encouraging sexual liberation. This was started partly due to the double standard around sexuality for men and women. When a man frequently engages in casual sex, he's considered a stud, but when a girl does it, she's considered a slut. Sexual promiscuity leads to less satisfaction in relationships for both genders. Just because it's more socially acceptable for a guy to have casual sex doesn't mean women should be trying to match that expectation by normalizing it. 2 wrongs don't make a right. And
yeah, Women push back hard on this whole idea of sexual liberation, and it is simply because it is very easy for women to have sex, but they don't realize the responsibility that comes with it. Now, my video last night, when I highlighted the difference between men and women having sex outside of their marriages, I got quite a few women push back, and men as well, actually. This idea that men and women are actually the same when it comes to promiscuity is insane. But in this quest to always feel that we are equal, they try to push this whole narrative that men and women react to sexual encounters the same, which is completely false. The mere idea that men produces 800 million sperms per day versus one woman egg per month clearly shows you that there is a serious difference. The idea that when men have an orgasm, he produces life. When a woman has an orgasm, she produces a liquid fluid. That's it. There is no life in that fluid that she produced. When she has an orgasm, it's simply her muscle spasms. And there's a fluid that squirts into her vagina that would help the man's sperm swim more effectively. There is nothing else that is produced until she reaches that one time a month where she drops an egg. Understand the significance in those two actions should make you wake up and realize, okay, sexual activity between the two are considerably different. But trying to break this down in a video that deals with various subjects is impossible to explain to a woman that we're not the same. The two sexes are not the same.
Promoting a destructive behavior under the marketable guise of sexual liberation is abhorrent. It's so interesting how women constantly complain about how shallow and objectifying their relationships with men are, but then promote hookup culture, which directly encourages this exact transactional process. If feminism actually cared about women as much as it claims to, the movement would be encouraging them to be more selective about their sexual partners. It would be educating them about the negative effects of casual sex, since we know that it leads to decreased relationship satisfaction, loneliness, and depression. And look, I know people are going to take this as me trying to tell women how to live. That's not what I'm doing at all. You have all the freedom in the world to live exactly how you please. However, where I do have an issue is when a cultural movement is built on a foundation of lies. If you're going to have an entire movement, an entire ideology who claims its very goal is to benefit women, then encourage behavior that actually benefits women.
And I just have to add one more thing. Yes, you can do whatever you want. If it's not illegal, you have the right to do whatever you want. Your morality is your morality. That's not what I'm talking about. But please understand, there are consequences to every single action that you participate in. What feminism have told women is that you can do whatever you want and not be judged by those actions. This is the insane freaking thing that we have to understand about this movement, this parasite of a movement. This is the problem. You can do whatever you want, ladies, and there are no consequences. How the hell does that make sense? Imagine if I told that to a man. Dude, you could sit at home and eat freaking chips all day, man. Play video games, man. You can do that right through your 20s, you know. Just have fun, dude. Just have fun. You know, and then when you reach your 30s, man, just find a nice woman and just settle down. Who gives a shit if you're fat? Imagine that. Just imagine that, gentlemen. Because that's the equivalent of telling a woman, go out there and you hoe yourself out during your 20s. It's your prerogative. You can eat whatever you want. You could just have as much fun as you want. And you know what? When you reach your 30s and you had your hoe phase, you can have fun after. You can just settle down and find a good husband. Yeah, that's not how the freaking world works. For every action, there is a consequence. So the best thing you can do is to make the best possible freaking action there is in order to secure the best possible outcome that you would want. And stop thinking that it is possible to get a good man at the end of this experience that you've done that was very negative to most men. But it's hard to tell women anything at all. that goes against them feeling good and enjoying their life.
At one point, this movement had genuinely pure intentions. It's the reason I have a right to vote and work and be educated. Feminism changed our lives as women for the better. So I'm sorry, but I can't help but feel like now it's doing the complete opposite. It's a common feminist position to be anti-tradwife. They insist that tradwives have some sort of Stockholm syndrome where they've fallen in love with their own oppression, claiming that it perpetuates traditional gender roles which have held women back. But I thought what actual feminism was supposed to be about was supporting women's freedom of choice. That means supporting them if they choose to climb the corporate ladder and supporting them if they choose to be a housewife. I thought the whole point of feminism was to respect a woman's freedom of choice, even if it's not the choice we would personally make. It was to recognize that there's not a one-size-fits-all lifestyle for women and that they should be able to prioritize what's important to them. Feminism will argue against this by saying that choices don't exist in a vacuum and society impacts your ability to make autonomous decisions, but you can make that exact same argument on the other side too. I could sit here and tell you that your decision to be a feminist is because social media has brainwashed you into believing that women are oppressed. So your choice to be a feminist isn't a real choice at all, but instead a reaction to your cultural environment. You can
Ooh, she's cooking. She's cooking. This is a thinking woman. This is a woman who's woken up. You can't say she's a red pillar. She's just somebody who's freaking woken up. She's not much different from how I've been thinking. I don't consider myself a red pillar, but a lot of what I tell you has red pill ingredients in it. But I'm so happy to see the younger generation waking up. She could be my daughter, man. This is the kind of woman we need out front, preaching to this young generation, hopefully to steer this freaking massive boat around.
You can run in circles forever trying to make this argument against either side. That's because it's a dumb argument. Who are you to assume that another woman's choices aren't autonomous? The mere assumption of that is actually quite anti-feminist of you. This is the female version of Sneeko calling everyone who disagrees with him a bot. You're accusing grown women of being incapable of coming to their own autonomous conclusions. That means you're doing the exact thing that you constantly accuse men of doing to you. Maybe some women like traditional gender roles. That's cool. Let them do their thing just like you're allowed to do yours. I'm the most masculine woman I've ever met. I should be the first in line to be championing the end of traditional gender roles. But I'm not like this because I'm resisting the patriarchy. This is just a part of how I am. I like buying stocks, playing with boobs. I'm just a chill guy. WAP. Women against porn. Except in today's terms, it means wet ass pussy. With modern feminism currently preaching sexual liberation, it may be surprising to learn that at one point it was the complete opposite. In the 1970s, anti-pornography was a growing part of feminism. And when you think about it, it actually makes perfect sense. Because it's consistent with the core values of feminism. To demonize the objectification of women and stop the fetishization of sexual violence against them. We know that porn is overwhelmingly aggressive towards women. We also know that consumers are more likely to commit acts of sexual violence, less likely to intervene if they witness an assault, and more likely to objectify and dehumanize women.
Let's look at the word WAP. Women against porn. That's what WAP meant originally. One girl, Cardi B. What was she before? Wasn't she a stripper? She took that one word and she made it into something insidious. Wet ass punani, right? Just destroyed everything that the traditionalists were trying to preserve, to make good. Immediately turn it around. I can tell you there's not one woman right now, when you say WAP and you ask them what does it mean, they will never say woman against porn. Because I didn't even know that was it. Only when I listened to this, I'm like, wow, that's true. Went back, check it out. Yeah, that's what WAP stands for. But now, mainstream media has literally ran with that acronym, WAP, the Cardi B version. Oh, man. You see how insidious this thing is, man? You see how seriously influential the mainstream push, music industry, they're all tied together. Mainstream TV, social media, and the music industry. Those four things, man, it almost seems that they're all working together to destroy any remnants of what the traditional home should look like.
Porn is seriously bad for both genders, but especially women. So to see the feminist movement glorify platforms like OnlyFans and other adult content feels like a complete slap in the face. How can you possibly complain about how oppressive it is to be objectified and then objectify yourself for profit? I don't understand how modern feminists have come to this conclusion. Actually, that's a lie. I do understand. I completely understand, because it would go against the sexual liberation movement. It goes against the sex positivity narrative. But one honest look at the statistics and it's blatantly clear. There's nothing liberating or positive about this industry. So what happened? Why did the anti-corn feminist protests stop? This article explains it perfectly. Anti-corn feminists were labeled sex negative in an era of feminism that was heavily influenced by liberalism. Individual choices, as opposed to mass liberation, became the forerunning feminist agenda. If that doesn't perfectly encapsulate the modern feminist movement, I don't know what does. The current movement wants all the ideals of feminism without having to sacrifice anything for it. The movement doesn't want to give up porn. It doesn't want to give up casual sex. That would be infringing on my personal freedoms. But maybe true liberation requires some personal sacrifice of those beloved freedoms. You can't eat a pound of cake every day and expect to lose weight. Your goals require a sacrifice. The issue of equal pay is another primary subject that feminists bring up. It's also probably the #1 most misrepresented topic in feminism. The gender pay gap does not exist because of the patriarchy oppressing women. The pay gap only exists because women are more likely to choose lower paying jobs. If you compare a man and a woman working at the same place, in the same position, with the same amount of experience working the same amount of hours, the pay is exactly the same. But when you compare the average income of men versus women, there's obviously going to be a gap. This is because men choose careers like car mechanics and truck driving, whereas women choose careers like teaching and nursing. A quick comparison of these incomes, and it's easy to see why there's a pay gap. It's not misogyny that creates this gap, it's just preference. Women have all the freedom in the world to go be an automotive mechanic, just like men can become teachers, but that's not typically what each gender wants to do on average. So from the outside, when you show the statistic of the gender pay gap, everyone's jaw drops and jumps to conclusions about sexism, but if you just look a little deeper, it's easy to see why it's there. If you're a woman and you're unhappy with your salary as a teacher, go be a truck driver. It is actually that simple. Something I can't stand about the feminist movement, and really many other modern movements, is how evasive they are to taking responsibility. If you're not happy with your pay, change jobs. You don't have to make it a political movement. You don't have to find someone to blame. You can just do something to change your situation. You can't...
She's cooking with a lot of sauce, my friends. The gender pay gap is one of the biggest jokes. And the reality of it is, she's right. And I remember Dr. Jordan Peterson saying that they've done studies on this, where in Scandinavian countries, where there's equality between the sexes at a much higher degree than anywhere else in the world, women still gravitate towards jobs that pay less. Even though they have all of the opportunities to become truck drivers, garbage person, all of the jobs that pay extremely well, women still gravitate towards soft skill jobs, marketing, finance, nursing, childcare, elderly care, psychology, all the soft jobs. Because in essence, women want a soft life. They do not want hard jobs. Hard jobs pay a lot better. Makes sense. Dangerous. The more dangerous the job, the more money you make. The more dangerous the job, the more you should be compensated for it. But then you can't please women. They will complain if they are not getting everything they want more than men. The reason is irrelevant.
Can't really talk about feminism without also talking about the red pill manosphere space. This is because they respond to one another culturally. The red pill purports that they have the solutions to these modern feminist problems. Spoiler alert, they don't. The red pill solution is extremely unrealistic for the majority of both men and women. The red pill has this idea that women need to just skip college and go back to being housewives, except that most of the men saying this would never be able to afford that lifestyle. Homie, you don't even have the career to be able to pay for the lifestyle of the woman that you want. The red pill will blame women for failing to fulfill their feminine roles without even recognizing that as men, they're failing just as badly at fulfilling their masculine ones. I really don't think that the red pill's idea of expecting men to be able to afford supporting an entire family on their one income is realistic at all. I think in theory the traditional family dynamic is a great idea and would make very happy, healthy relationships, but in modern times less than 1/4 of men will ever be financially capable of achieving such a feat. In today's economy, the trad lifestyle is reserved for only the most prosperous men. But yet the red pill preaches it like it's the majority solution. Pew Research shows in 2022, only 23% of households had the husband as the sole provider of income. That means 77% of women were contributing to household income. Most guys just aren't out here making enough money to support himself, a woman, and kids. And in today's economy, I would say that's pretty understandable. What I don't see the red pill talking about is how a lot of women would love to adopt the traditional lifestyle, but there's just not enough prosperous men to go around.
Of course. A lot of women would love to sit their asses at home now while a man goes out and work, because they all know that they could game the system. Because once she's sitting her ass at home and she then decide to leave under the no fault laws, she can now leave the man and he has to pay her alimony as well as child support. So now she gets to live and have fun with whoever she wants. As long as she don't get married again, that poor sucker of a ex-husband has to keep paying her money. The thing is with the red pill is that they would love to go back to the traditional way. And that's what they're encouraging men to be. Build yourself so you can make sure that you can take care of your wife and kids. I have never freaking said that. I've told you guys 100 times, never, ever, ever make your wife sit at home while you go out and work. She has to have a job. And it's for the simple point, you do not want to get stuck with alimony when that woman leaves your ass. My wife has to work. There's no way I'm going to expose myself to paying her alimony if she ever wants to leave. Not giving her that choice. Women don't deserve that sort of freedom. And I know it's not the ideal situation. But if you look at how many marriages fail based on 70 to 90% of women not being happy and decide to leave your marriages, why would you expose yourself to that? It doesn't matter if your money is sitting in a trust or your assets are protected, you still got to pay her alimony because in essence, you become her employer. If she's sitting at home, you are paying her to take care of the kids. That's technically what alimony is. And then when she quit the job, you have to pay her a severance pay. That's technically what alimony is. Retirement fee, 401k, half of that shit is gone to her as well. So gentlemen, all I'm saying is you don't want to expose yourself to this sort of financial risk. Red pillars have to start telling men that shit. And I think most red pill men are now saying that. I suspect that she's pulling a lot of this information from those generic red pill talking points.
Given an alternative, many women might very well choose to be a housewife. Feminism might be the only movement that can get away with constantly complaining about how oppressive it is to be objectified and then simultaneously objectify themselves. The problem is that this movement wants all the benefits of feminism without any of its consequences. Say you want equality until you realize that means splitting the bills, unclogging the toilet, and having to kill the spider. In modern relationships, it's common for the financial theory of the woman to be everything he makes is ours and everything I make is mine, rather than both partners contributing equally, which is what feminism claims to want to do. There's a book called Sexual Utopia and Power by Roger Devlin that sums this up perfectly. The modern woman wants all the benefits of a traditional marriage, but is unwilling to pay the costs. She wants a man to marry her without her having to marry the man.
Oh, that was perfect. The woman wants the man to marry her, but she don't want to marry the man. Wow, that's powerful. I just had to put a point on that one, man. Whew.
Some feminists are even demanding that there be quotas for women to be in executive positions, but they never talk about there being quotas for women in bricklaying. It's clear that modern feminism wants all the benefits of something without any of its sacrifice. Let's be very clear. That is not equality. That's privilege.
That's not equality. That's a privilege. Feminism only wants privileges. Young lady, you have hit this one out of the park. You have demonstrated everything about this modern feminism in 10 minutes. Kudos to you, my friend. My friends, listen, that's all. Subscribe. That's all I have for you today. Go over to this young lady's channel and support her for sure. I'm going to keep an eye on her, and if she drops some more gems like this, I'll be bringing it to you guys. Okay? So, until tomorrow, my friends, remember, whenever in doubt, always, always ask an older man. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.